Well, when it comes to me hearing the voice of the Lord, what I mean when I say that is I'm driving and I'm on the way actually back from the Carolinas. And my mother says to stop in Atlanta and take your grandmother out for lunch. So I call my grandmother an hour or so away and I said, hey, Grandma, let's go to lunch. She said, grandson, I wish I could, but I'm actually on the way to a doctor's appointment. I don't have any time. So we'll have to postpone it. So I'm thinking this is great. I can go ahead and smoke my blunt and do what I got to do, without having to, take this derailed trip, because I was actually delaying the addictions that I had going on because I knew I would be in the presence of my grandmother. Mm-hmm. So she said, well, hey, you're driving, I'm driving. We can at least talk for an hour or so. And I'm thinking like, oh, man, really? So we began to talk and we began to discuss some things. And the conversation actually started off just very plain. Real regular. How's life treating you? How's your grass growing? Okay, everything's great, good. And out of nowhere, she says, grandson, what happened to you? I'm thinking like, huh? She said, what happened to you? What happened to the grandson who was on fire for the Lord, that was doing right? What happened to the grandson that we raised the right way? What happened to you? Look at your life now. You're a mess. Your lips are black. You don't got no job. Your life is falling apart. What happened to you? And as she's asking me this, I began to just speak to myself, and I'm just wondering, man, what's going on? I felt naked. I felt exposed. And then she began to say, I haven't given up on you. She says, I know the Lord's going to work with you. She's like, the Lord has a plan for your life. He hasn't given up on you yet. As a matter of fact, she told me that she could see the day when I would be standing and preaching before people again. And she just began to speak life into me. And then she prayed with me. And then by this time, of course, tears are rolling down my face. And I'm just one-on-one with the Lord. And I believe what happened there, and in the book, I kind of call this a special ops, secret covert mission, because it's like the Lord above was working with the Holy Spirit, all of my angels around me, setting me up, placing me in this position, because after this conversation with my grandmother, I made up in my mind then that I would change my life and that I would get things together. And he clearly told me after this journey had taken place that he was only able to get my attention and only able to speak to me in this matter once my spiritual receptors were open.
What spiritual receptors?
We all have spiritual receptors right here in the back of our brain. We were naturally created to be in communion with God. And there are times that we put things within our life, whether it be television or some music that we listen to, or maybe tobacco or drugs or alcohol. We put these things in our lives and it clouds our brain and it clogs up our spiritual receptors. And we are not able to be in tune with God, which is why this road trip, this situation when I was with my grandmother on the phone was so critical in my life. I had heard hundreds and thousands of sermons before, but nothing registered as much as this here. I went approximately 36 to 48 hours with no impurities in my body or in my mind. So when the Lord spoke to me, I was able to hear him loud and clear.
So you attribute having clarity of mind, having clearness of mind, that experience, being able to hear because you weren't imbibing the alcohol or the drugs. You attribute that to being able to hear the Holy Spirit. Mm-hmm. So throughout the book, and especially in chapter 8, you talk a little bit about the love of your life, which is the first most important thing that you want people to know, and that's Tracy. Can you tell us a little bit about how Tracy was instrumental in your life at that time?
Tracy. Let me tell you. Cheryl, I met Tracy about 5 years ago. We actually worked together for the same company right around the time when the dope game and the club and everything else come together. And she never paid me any mind. That's one thing about her. She didn't pay me any mind. I tried my hardest, and she just was not hearing me. And I got to the point I just gave up. And one day she texted me, and we went and hung out, and we began to spend time together, and we really became good friends. A lot of women ask, why Tracy? Why'd you choose her? You've got all these other women you could have chose. Why did you choose Tracy? Well, there was something different about Tracy. For one, when Tracy would come by my house and we would go and we would hang out and she would watch TV with me, she would sit on a far right couch. She wouldn't even sit nowhere near me. And I would say, Tracy, honey, you can see the TV right here. Why don't you, come and sit down with me here? And she would say, I can see the TV just fine from right here. And so I would laugh and I would just be like, wow, something is different about her. She wasn't so quick to just jump in my bed and give herself to me. She really held her morals up to a higher standard. And when I saw that, that's what turned me on to her. And we began to date for some years, and we spent a lot of time together. We became best friends. And then ultimately, 2 years ago, we got married.
Jeremy, the reason why I wanted to do this interview with you is because you have a powerful testimony. But a lot of people can't see their way out. They are trapped in this cycle of weed smoking. In fact, some people even think that it should be legalized because so many young people are smoking. And they're trapped in alcoholism, and they can't see a way out. In fact, some people think that they can pretty much hold on to both their whatever their vice is and to God. And so that's why it was very important that we did this interview with you today, to talk about your book, to talk about your experiences. Your experiences are detailed here. It also talks about how you came out of those experiences. And it's clear that God led you out of that. And so you have a ministry now, and that is to go around and to talk to young people about how they can experience freedom and perhaps even never even go down that road. And so can you just tell us a little bit about your ministry, especially the ministry that you have to the public school system, talking to young people in the school system?
Well, when it comes to my ministry, it's pretty quite amazing what the Lord has allowed me to be a part of. I work for this technology school called WyoTech. I have the privilege of traveling all over Alabama. In the past 2 years, I have spoken in over 50 high schools, speaking to high school students, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, and just letting them know that there is more out of life than what they're expecting or what they're dealing with right now. We talk about the importance of education. We talk about the importance of living a healthy life, or living a life drug-free, of having goals and aspirations, and not limiting their self on the success that they can have if they choose to be successful. And so I love being able to go to the different high schools and meet these young people exactly where they are. The passion and the heart of my ministry is also in the spiritual realm. I've had the privilege to travel all over the country and even now internationally, speaking and sharing my testimony and meeting young people right where they are because they're hurting. And I get it. I realize it. I was there. You've got all these vices of the world. You've got all these different things pulling you left and right. And sometimes you don't know what to do. And as young people, we tend to naturally want to adapt. We want to be in with the hip crowd. We want to know what to do. We want to be accepted by our peers. And so what we do is we compromise our ways, and we compromise right from wrong, and we fall victim every single time. And so I've had the privilege. I know the Lord has only spared me to be able to travel and let people know then there is more to life than what you're experiencing right now. I'll tell you, Cheryl, I should have wrote this book from prison or from a wheelchair or in a hospital room with AIDS infection inside my blood veins. But for some reason, God saw fit to keep me whole, which is why I said that I owe God my life. And I've had the privilege to live a life of ministry. And that's ultimately what life is all about.
That is an amazing testimony. I just thank God that He spared you from so many things. But as you know, our prison system right now in America, and I know that this is going to be on the internet worldwide, but here in America, we've got the largest prison population in the world. And we know that probably a high percentage, definitely more than half of those prisoners are African American males. And so I guess what I'm trying to ask is that, you know, a lot of people did not have the experience you had. They are imprisoned, or they have a record already. They have a felony. So even though your experience, your negative experience started after college, your experience, a lot of their experiences are different because they haven't even made it to college. In fact, they don't even know that they can go to college. What's your encouragement to young males in that situation?
As far as education is concerned, it's really sad our public school system here in the country, we're failing our youth. I mean, it's that simple. I know here in Alabama, they say that we have about a 40% dropout rate. That is so huge, especially in our urban areas. And so for a lot of them, it's a hard goal to reach and a huge achievement for them to even graduate from high school. Some advice that I would share with them would be to break the cycle. I was able to be a part of this organization back in the day with my friend Eric Thomas. Break the cycle. Sometimes we get caught up in life, we get caught up in situations, and we figure this is all I can do. We feel like this is all I can amount to. My daddy didn't do this, my granddaddy didn't do that. This is all I know. But if you want more, if you know that there is more for your life, then there is more for you out here. When I go to these high schools, I tell these students every single day, you make whatever you want to make out of life. If you put good in, you're going to get good out of it. But sometimes we tend to settle. So some words of encouragement would be to focus in on the power of education. Stop telling yourself that you can't when you can. There are millions of success stories from people that come from low income, poverty homes, that don't really have the finances. No one in their family can even read. And they say, you know what, I want more out of life. But it starts at a young age. It starts at the high school age. We need more mentors out here. Some parents just don't know. And it's becoming to be a cycle of the same type of parents. They're raising their children, and their children are ended up parents the same type that they had, and then nothing ever changes. So what we need is we need our community to come together. We need for more moral support to come in. We need more mentors for men and women. We need mentors to grab these young people in our local churches and neighborhoods and communities and say, hey, you can do better. Hey, I'm expecting more from you. Hey, I don't mind sitting down with you to help you study. I don't mind sitting down with you to help you with your schoolwork. I don't mind helping you apply for scholarships or college. We need to start pushing them in that area. If not, we will fail in this field over and over and over again.
We talked a lot about from prodigal to prodigy, from going from Breaking Bad, if we want to put it in modern terms, to coming back and being corrected. But there's another type of young person out here, and they are not talked about a lot in the media or in the churches. And that's the young person who's doing good, who's obeying all the rules, who, for whatever reason, is ignored because they don't seemingly need as much attention because they're doing the right things. And sometimes they get left behind. They feel left out because, as you said before, there aren't good mentors for them. Do you have any encouragement for the other son, the son that's there, that's doing the right thing and may feel a little discouraged or may actually be having an identity crisis because they're not being paid attention to?
You know, Cheryl, it's interesting you asked that. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he tends to feel like the other son did in the prodigal son. He kind of felt like, hey, I stayed at home. I did all the great stuff. Where's my ministry at? You know, where's my wife? Where's my house on the hill? Where are all my blessings at? And, you know, that's a really scary state to be in. So let me just speak on that here briefly. Everybody has their own separate journey. Every single one of us have our own separate journey. The Lord only spared me because he knew that I would fall off track, and he got tired of my foolishness. He brought me back home. We all have our separate journey. The question here is, how do we get out of this complacency in our Christianity? That's right. Because, see, we get complacent in our Christianity. We get to a point that we feel like, well, I'm not selling drugs, and I'm not spreading my legs for somebody new every night, and I'm not killing people, so I guess I'm perfect. I guess I'm good to go. Where's mine? Where's mine? Where's mine? And the Lord is like, look, I expect so much more from you. You know, I have so many more great plans for you. So my advice would be not to focus in on what you don't have, but focusing on what you do have. Stay faithful. Die of the flesh every single day. Give God 100%. He will work wonders in your life. But we have to get to a point to where we stop and we take the focus off of why don't we have this and why is their grass greener. Hey, God has given you your life. Make the most out of it, and you won't regret that decision.
I thank you so much for sharing that experience with us. And if you have one parting word that you would like to give to those who are viewing this interview, what would it be?
It would be to stay connected to the Lord every single day.